Hi, I think I should probably maybe introduce myself and explain why I'm doing these videos. The obvious part is that I like art and I am working towards making it a career for myself. But the reason I am making art now and choosing this path, even though I never went to school for it, it's the big important factor for me. It is what people call the why. This is my why. I almost died, and then I almost lived the rest of my life in depression. I was diagnosed with chronic depression more than once. The first time I noticed there was something off was in my early teens, when I first started experiencing panic attacks and self-harming. I was good at hiding it. I only really opened up about it once I had dealt with it, and honestly, it wasn't fake. I stopped having panic attacks and I stopped harming myself till I was about the age of 15 or 16 at least. I was actually very good at seeking help when I needed to talk, but it was always online counselors. Because let's be honest, the healthcare system kinda sucks. At this age, I fell for the wrong person. A person that would emotionally and sexually abuse me and manipulate me for approximately 6 years of my life. From about 14 to 21. And 4 years in which no one was even aware they were in my life. It really took a toll on my mental health, and again, I knew something was wrong. I sought help every time I knew there was something wrong. But the healthcare system just never really heard me, I guess. I wasn't actually diagnosed on my first psychiatric appointment, but I was still offered depression medication, which I said no to. Unsatisfied, I kept on trying. But let's bear in mind, an appointment with a psychiatrist, at least back then, would take 6 months to a year to get. By the third psychiatrist, I was convinced that I had chronic depression and generalized anxiety. The first one assumed it. The second one explained it and diagnosed me. The third one confirmed it. Because they actually diagnosed me with severe depression and generalized anxiety. However, let's also keep in mind, I had other diagnoses which were inconsistent. These were the only things they all seemed to kind of agree on, which is why I finally accepted it. I was in my early 20s at this point, and I was prescribed medication once again, which I actually never took. And I am not against medication. I was and have always been open to it, but as my last resort. The following events led to what felt to me like healing. I created an escape from my toxic situation by leaving, like physically leaving the city. Leaving allowed me to break off a relationship that was destroying me mentally, which nobody even knew about. Spending time with family, learning new routines, finding new exciting things, looking for hope in the future, and focusing on myself allowed me to return home feeling new. And everything was great. I continued to grow and flourish for a little while longer. Then fast forward to my mid-20s and my life started to fall apart from my point of view. But I was actually in a toxic environment once again. I was surrounded by people that had little to no dreams, people that enjoyed gossiping, rumoring, and manipulating each other. There was guilt and shame all around. There was too much hate and jealousy. The negative energy was so consuming, and once again, I knew something was wrong. The problem was that this time, I realized a little later than usual. I didn't have as much time as I thought. This time, I didn't even want a diagnosis. I knew I had it again, and this time it was worse. The depression and crippling anxiety left me jobless, separated me from my friends and family, and it deeply affected my decision-making. Again, I was prescribed medication, which I still did not want. I wanted therapy first. But without money, you're put on a wait list to talk to people that have a list of people that need them, so they can't really dedicate a whole lot of their time to you. I ended up changing therapists like 3 times in a year and never felt heard. My brother called the cops, My brother even took me to the hospital at one point, and nothing was ever done. They literally asked me in front of my brother if I had a gun, if I would pull the trigger. I said yes, and they still told me to go home. They started sending a person to my house once a week to drop off paper about depression and anxiety, which I actually never read. I hated the visits because they felt so meaningless, like I was just this person they needed to keep track of, but weren't actually helping. I was just a box they needed to check off so they could feel like they were doing something. At this point, I wasn't living anymore. I was just surviving.